4 harsh truths for men that I wish I knew in my 20s. Number 1, this world is cruel to men who can't earn. So no matter what people tell you, and they'll say money's not important, just remember, they'll say that out of one side of their mouth, but out of the other, they'll criticize you more if you can't provide. For the last 10,000 generations of our ancestors, the men who have been respected, the men who have gotten the best mates, who've been able to raise their children, were the men who knew how to hunt for resources. And so you must go deep down the rabbit hole of acquiring practical money-making skills. It's great to get a wide education on philosophy, history, art, but never forget that you gotta go even harder on making money. What is money? Why is it in the hands of so few? And that's not a new capitalistic thing. Why has it always been in the hands of so few? And how do you get out of the 80% into the 20%? In many ways, there's a cultural paranoia. There's a bipolar element to the world. They will tell you that if you focus too hard on making money, that you should be ashamed of your greed. But in the same breath, we all know the man who can't provide for his family, like the Godfather says, isn't a man at all. So you're gonna have to stop listening to so many people and just listen to this simple thing. You, instead of playing video games, instead of just hanging out with your friends, you set aside 1 to 3 hours a day to only think money. Only think money. 1 to 3 hours. If you do it any more than that, you might become obsessive. But 1 to 3 hours a day, especially when you're in your teens and 20s. One of the tragedies of the modern school system is that the time where people have the most free time is full of things that will never benefit you again. Sports, they rarely benefit people besides physical fitness. But people take their whole teenage years and just do sports with their dreams of being a pro athlete, and almost nobody becomes a pro athlete. You have a better chance of winning the lottery, but you have a high probability of making $1 million. When I was with my second mentor is a guy named Alan Nation, wisest guy I've ever met. And I was thinking about getting a college degree. I was at NC State. I had taken my first quarter, but I didn't have enough money. I had, $500 in my bank account, and it was a $2,000 for all the textbooks. And I was like, I'm gonna have to drop out. And I felt bad about that. And I was gonna just have to go make money. So I called Alan Nation. I said, Alan, what do you think, man? And he goes, well, why do you want a degree? And I said, well, for one, people will respect you. People will hire you. People will want to work with you. And he said, no, this is America. Make $1 million. Nobody cares about pieces of paper anymore. It's not the 1950s. That was one of the first clues where I was like, wait a second. Society tells you, but if you cut through the BS. We're just like we were 10,000 generations ago. Some men couldn't bring home any meat for the children, and his woman left him and went into another man's hut. The rest of the tribe ostracized him. Nothing's really changed. We still have that primitive brain. Humans may have changed, but not as much as you think. The world's a cruel place to men who can't make money.
Number 2 was that at the end of the day, it's all just confidence. You might think that the person born in the right place, or the person who works the hardest, or the person who's most skilled. No, it will be confidence that's the core predictor of your total success. So your big regrets when you're 60 years old, 80 years old, if you don't watch this video, your biggest regret, you will look back and you will say, if only I had been more confident about my business ideas. If only I'd been more confident about my social skills. If only I'd been more confident about my looks, about my height, about my appearance. When it comes to making money, confidence wins. When it comes to women, confidence wins. I remember I used to do a party up in the Hollywood Hills, and there was the prettiest woman who ever came in 6 years of me throwing parties. Was with a guy. At first, I was like, this must be her gay agent or something, because he was 6 inches shorter than her. She was like a blonde, Swedish, natural beauty, and he was like this little Latino guy. And I remember at some point realizing, no, this woman likes him, and he didn't have money. Confidence beats even money. The third harsh truth. The world will tell you that the man who shows his emotion, who expresses his emotion, who's in touch with his emotions is the man that you should look up to. But when you look at the behavior of society, it doesn't. It doesn't. It looks to the man who stoically endures the trials unflinchingly. It looks to the man who's not easily bothered. Doesn't matter what modern society thinks. I like what Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, the billionaire, said. Colonel Munger said, when life goes bad for you, something horrible, you lose a friend, a family member. He said, you take your time of grief, you cry about it for 3 days, and then you bury it deep within you and don't let it come out again. Now, some people will try to argue and say, no, suppressing never works. Well, I think if you look at the evidence at how a man's brain is built, men have a brain higher on psychopathy. It's hardwired that way. I have a company, 12 Types. I've tested over 500,000 people in over 100 countries. And consistently, men on something called the Levinson psychopathy test, men score relatively high comparatively to women. So what happens is with men and women as a unit raising a child, the woman is expressing the emotions generally more. They're much lower on Levinson's. Often women get a 0 or a 1 on the Levinson psychopathy test. And most dudes get at least baseline of 20 to 30. So 1 to 20, I mean, you're talking about 10x, 20x, 30x, okay? And so you might say, but no, a baby, a child, a society needs people who are emotional. Yeah, that's why it's split. That's why we have evolved as a split sex society, male, female. This happened. Sexual reproduction is a novel thing. Not all species have sexual reproduction. Ferns don't. Earthworms don't. But humans split the task of life. The woman would take the more empathetic activities. The man would take the more suppressive. The man doesn't talk as much. Testosterone makes a man speak less. Men are built on day one to suppress emotions more than women. Now, there's exceptions to this. Men who go to war in World War II, for example, before we really understood PTSD, men suffered, okay? But even with all that we have now, men who go to war still suffer. There's still PTSD. There's also, though, resiliency levels within men. So there's subgroups of men who have no PTSD. None. They're shocked. They come out and like, yeah. I saw a video with a guy from World War I, and he's like, they're like, how many people did you shot? He's like, I don't know. I lost track at 100. And he said, do you ever lose sleep? He said, never lost sleep. He's like, I was there to do a job. They were attacking us. They started it. I went to finish it. The fourth harsh truth I wish I had been told as a man in my 20s is that it matters where you live, and you better pick it logically, methodically, and well. One of the parts of this harsh truth, this fourth one has more layers to it than you realize. Cultures aren't the same. They're not the same. I'm not going to say which one's better and which one's worse, but they're different. You live in Brazil, you're going to live in a culture that values family. If you want a woman to raise a traditional family with, why are you in New York City? What are you doing? You can work hard and go on dates and, oh, but I can build a filter. I can build a funnel on Tinder and I can filter it. No, you can't. That's not how the game works. That is too much confidence. Don't be delusional. I want you to be confident on things that are realistic. You're not playing the probabilities. You're like a poker guy who says, oh, I can win with any hand. I can win with a pair of sixes. No, because there's competition. People get so narcissistic that they think winning has nothing to do with the playing field. It does have to do with the playing field. You need sharp people. There's a reason Elon Musk moved to San Francisco. It had the most tech geniuses, and he found the PayPal mafia. He was one of 23 high IQ guys. So you need to go deep down the rabbit hole of the analysis of where to live.